Hey guys, it's me, it's Rob, and welcome back to the next episode here of this series. And over the last few episodes, we already covered a lot. We shaped the terrain, worked with the rocks, built water features, planted around shorelines, and blended vegetation into cliffs and hillsides. And now we are finally arriving at what we probably the most noticeable part of any landscape: trees. Because trees are often the first thing you noticed even from far away. They're elements that give an enclosure its identity, its atmosphere, and in many cases even its silhouette. And let's be honest, trees are just awesome. We all love them, and thankfully Jurassic World Evolution 3 has given us a really nice selection of the years to create over the years, to create all sorts of different ecosystems and environments. And we are back on the Azores map here. As you can see, we are working on the last episodes here, and so we continue the series here. The smaller plants are already in place, the rocks have been blended into the landscape, and now it's time to complete these three enclosures with trees. And one thing I think it's worth mentioning right away: trees often created a skyline of an enclosure. The shape and the height of the canopy make a huge difference. And one thing I always try to avoid is having every tree at the exact same height or scale. Nature doesn't work that way. You rarely find a perfectly straight line of treetops in the wild. Of course, if that's the effect you're going for, that's completely fine. But in general, variation creates a much more natural and interesting result. And in today's speed build, I'll show you how I approach each of these three enclosures differently and how I use trees to strengthen overall biome and atmosphere. So, I would say on this point, let's start the speed build while I'm talking here. So, what can I say again? We have trees. What we can do with trees? And we can create open woodlands, mixed forests, dense forests, or isolated groups of trees. And all of them create a completely different feeling. Personally, I often enjoy a mixed approach. Small groups of trees, open spaces between them, and a view, a denser section here and there. And one topic I keep coming back to throughout the series is perspective. Try looking at your enclosure from different viewpoints. Use the gas paths, use the viewing galleries, use the observation towers and observation logs and so on. And ask yourself what I'm actually looking at. Trees can open a view, trees can also block a view, and trees can guide a view. And you can even use them almost like a frame around a focal point. And another thing I pay close attention to is clustering. Many people place trees one by one with large gaps in between. A tree here, another tree 20 meters away, then another one. But natural forests often grow in groups. Small clusters of trees with different sizes and heights tend to look much more convincing than evenly spaced individual placeable trees. And while different types of trees matter, I actually think canopy shape matters even more. That's one of my favorite design tricks. In the game we have broad canopies, narrow canopies, tall canopies, rounded canopies, and irregular canopies. Mixing these different shapes together often creates a more interesting composition than simply mixing different types of the trees. Of course, it's perfectly fine to stick with one tree type as well. Many kinds of these different trees already come with several different variations, and combining those can go a long way. Scaling is also sometimes worth experimenting with. And sometimes I'll make trees slightly larger, sometimes smaller, sometimes I sink them into the terrain, and sometimes I'll blend it also then directly into hillsides or existing vegetation. And a small adjustment can completely change how a tree feels within the landscape. It's also useful to think about foreground, middle ground and background. You remember? A good example is Larger trees often work very well in the distance. Medium-sized trees can define the middle ground, and smaller trees can help create detail closer to the viewer. Again, there are no strict rules, but it's another tool you can use to create depth. That said, it is perfectly fine to do it differently. After all, an enclosure isn't viewed from just one side. Then you have only one background, middle ground, and foreground. Sometimes there are multiple viewing angles, so placing a large tree in the foreground is completely acceptable. Please do it, yeah? I think you know what I mean. And I just wanted to point out that we often have these three levels to work with. And we haven't absolute right or wrong here, yeah? And one thing I strongly believe, more trees do not automatically create a better forest. Sometimes 5 or 10 trees carefully placed create a much stronger impression than 50 randomly scattered ones. Placement matters far more than quantity. Trees also create shadows, silhouettes and contrast, and especially during sunrise and sunset. And sometimes a single tree in the right place can completely transform the atmosphere of a scene. But at the same time, remember, while we are building these enclosures, we still want to see our dinosaurs. And if you place 10 giant trees directly in front of every viewing area or space or what we can look inside, that can become a problem pretty quickly. So, as always, balance is the key. Alright, enough talking from me here. Sit back, relax and enjoy the speed build while I finish these three enclosures and give them their final character. Alright, I hope you are happy with the final result, what you can see here. Hopefully you could see that I tried to create a good amount of variety across all three enclosures, both in the choice of trees and the way they were arranged. So, one thing I've learned over the time is that more trees don't automatically create a better forest. Sometimes a single tree placed in the exactly right spot has much more impact than dozens of trees scattered randomly across the landscape. I know I repeat myself here on this point, but I think it's so important. And a lone tree on a small hill next to a lake or by sides of a rock formation or even near of a guest viewing area or gallery can become a natural or interesting focal point. And another thing I pay a lot of attention to is grouping. Personally, I think groups of trees work incredibly well. It's not that number 3 is only magical, but composition with 3 objects naturally feel more interesting because they break symmetry. Usually all combine one larger tree, one medium-sized tree and one slightly smaller one. That immediately creates a hierarchy. I hope I pronounce this correct here. I blended the word here in. And our eyes naturally follow those different heights. And of course, that's only one way of doing it. But it's sometimes that works surprisingly often very well. And spacing is just as important. Try not to place one tree, then another 20 meters away, and another 20 meters after that. Instead, think about creating small clusters of trees with some open spaces between those groups. Those little clusters create a ribbon throughout enclosures and make the landscape feel much more intentional. And that brings me to another important point. Empty spaces is just also important as trees themselves. If every square meter is filled with trees, eventually not individual tree stands out anymore. Open areas, clear sightlines and small clearings give your eyes somewhere to rest. They also allow visitors or guests to actually see the dinosaurs. And at the same time, you can intentionally create denser woodland in certain areas to give your dinosaurs the feeling of having natural shelter or more private spaces with the enclosure. And you probably also noticed during this people that are placed quite a bit of dead wood also. Fallen logs, dead trees, old trunks, exposed roots, and so to me they are just also important as living trees. A real forest isn't only made up of healthy trees. Different stages of life all exist together, and adding that would immediately make an environment feel more believable and lived in. Together, living trees, shrubs, fallen logs and old trunks create much richer compositions. They tell a story and make the landscape feel much more natural. I know some of the things I'm talking about can sound a little abstract or boring, but I genuinely hope at least one of two of these things what I'm talking about here might help you the next time you're building. Take some time to experiment. Try different tree shapes. Mix different canopy forms together. Don't be afraid to rotate them, scale them or blend them into the surrounding vegetation. Sometimes the smallest adjustments make the biggest difference. Trust me. And one last thought before we finish. An enclosure doesn't have to stay within one single style. Just because you've chosen a temperate theme doesn't mean every single tree has to be exactly the same. You can still introduce different tree groups, different shrubs and subtle variations throughout the enclosure. Variation creates interest. Personally, I found it much more enjoyable than using the exact same tree over and over again across the entire map. Of course, I still like to say within a believable style. I probably wouldn't place palm trees in a Canadian landscape and pretend they naturally belong there. But small variations within the same biome often makes an enclosure feel much more authentic rather than less. So I'm also thinking about doing another episode where look at the individual plants, what we have in-game and the different biomes in more detail, sharing some of my favorite combinations and explaining why certain plants work so well together. I definitely want to do another episode where I can show you the various plants combinations, ranging from small ground cover shrubs and so with bushes all the way to trees. I'm going to do this for every single biome. And I can present the selection in a way that makes sense for me and it's practical maybe also for you. So, and I can't say on this point. Meanwhile, I'll continue finishing this park here, adding guest facilities too, choosing dinosaurs and polishing everything. And once I'm happy with it, then I also upload this map to the workshop so everyone can explore it themselves. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, I really appreciate a like or a comment for the algorithm. And it helps out the channel and it's always great to hear your thoughts. So, take care of yourself and take care of your dinosaurs. See you next time guys and bye bye.